What's up guys, Bo here again. How y'all doing? Welcome to another Bo Ginger vlog. In this entry I wanted to talk about selfishness, right? And the world's kind of quite tainted perception of selfishness, right? Because ultimately, like, the message that I provide in these videos is, if you really think about it, to be selfish, right? And if you watch anyone else, or if you're savvy of any other self-help, personal development, spirituality content, you know that you kind of understand that, like, actually the message that most of those people and myself give you is to be more selfish, right? And the reason for this is because the world is actually too selfless, right? Which isn't completely right, but let me explain what I'm saying. So, selfishness can be bad, but this, if you have someone who takes things from other people, deprives them of opportunity and resources for no apparent reason, then that's bad, right? And so that selfishness assumes abundance, right? But in the real world, most people are stuck in the kind of paradigm of codependence, right? So Stephen Covey wrote a book called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And in that book, he outlines 3 paradigms, right? There's codependence, there's independence, and there's interdependence, right? The second one is self-explanatory. The first and the third both imply cooperation. They both imply community. But the difference is that in the first case, codependence, it's coming from a scarcity paradigm. Whereas in the other one, it's coming from an abundance paradigm, right? So since most people in the world are in a reality of scarcity, in a paradigm of codependence, right? They share, but only to the extent that there are resources available, right? When resources diminish, because, like, collectively they're in like a state of scarcity, then they either go into involuntary selfishness, because what else are you going to do? Like, you're going to starve. Or they go into, like, self-sacrifice, basically, for the group, the good of the good, right? The good of the group, right? So it's very loaded, this, actually. The theme of selfishness is very controversial because of this, right? But we're taught in school, or at least I was taught in school, that selfishness is wrong. You need to share. Selfishness is wrong. Don't hog everything. And so, there is this pervasive thought. I've seen it both in the Western and Eastern societies, because, like, I saw it kind of in my own family growing up. But selfishness is wrong, right? You need to share. And people are judged accordingly, like. But, if you watch my videos, or if you're familiar with any other kind of self-help, personal development, spirituality content out there, then you'll kind of at least subconsciously know that, like, the message that we give to you is kind of to be selfish, right? And I'll explain why this is. Like, in Stephen Covey's book, like, this is kind of essentially what he explains, which is that you have these progressions, right? And codependence is when you're stuck in a group that has limited resources, and essentially they're kind of holding each other down. Because like, you can't be selfish, so, like, you have to, like, give everything that you have to the group, right? You have to help each other out, right? You have to help each other out to survive. But this entails a lot of a lot of self-sacrifice, right? And then like a lot of kind of like involuntary selfishness, like I said. But, you know, in order to get to a place of abundance, you know, which is ultimately, you know, what I'm kind of trying to do in my own life, and like, you know, the kind of general thing with like personal development is to get to a place of abundance. In order to do that, you have to kind of grow your own power, right? Because the thing that people don't realize, and because of this judgment of selfishness is wrong, is that the group is dependent on its individual capacities. And that's something that, you know, like no one realizes, right? In the codependent like paradigm. But like in order to be part of a group that is abundant and full of like true cooperation, true selflessness, you have to grow your power, your own power, to a place where you can where like you personally can facilitate that, right? And so this kind of aversion to selfishness is actually getting in the way of true selflessness. You know, like, you know, that's the irony. You know, like people like preach that you have to be selfless, you have to be altruistic, you have to be charitable, you have to be generous, but they're coming from this place of scarcity. Like the majority of people, you know, they don't have much, either in the way of like finance, or like resources, or even like their own kind of self-esteem and pride, right? They don't have that much compared to the average person, who is also, you know, in that kind of low energy, that low vibrational state, that state of scarcity, you know, and so, you know, all that happens is that like we end up like this group of like selfless people who like you know, are starving in this little pool, right? And the only way you can break free from that is to start to feed yourself. You know, try, if you're, like, imagine if you were starving, right, and you had a piece of bread, you know, like, you know, this can be argued, right? I'm sure, like, you know, in the Bible or whatever, like, there's a story like this where, like, someone gives all that they have to someone else. You know, I'm not saying like there are nuances to this, right? But in the real world, right, the way that our societies run, like we need to survive. We need to like have an effective structure, right? And the only way to break free from a shitty structure is that you need to temporarily distance yourself from it. It's like there's no other way, you know. And the reason like these shitty structures exist is because of this. Again, it's controversial because you, like, it can be argued, like it's tempting to think that there are some people whose interests lie in you staying where you are, you know, in you staying in the shitty paradigm so that they can keep feeding off of you. Oh yeah, let's be selfish, when like that person doesn't actually have any capacity to take care of themselves, and so they're relying on you, hence codependence, right? You're relying on their like gratification, like, you know, being like the codependent, you're relying on them for like, you know, the validation, the sense of safety, the leadership, and they're relying on you for the care, you know, whatever that might be, you know, whether that be physical or emotional, right? You know, the narcissist. So that, you know, that's how that that kind of typical psychological kind of dynamic works, like narcissist and codependence, right? And so, yeah, you could argue that, but like at the same time, the reason why we're all stuck in this codependent thing, this like these shitty systems, is because we're taught to be selfless. Like, oh, so you want to improve yourself? What, you being like, you want to be fucking selfish now, you know? Oh, like you want to like distance yourself from us, not help us out anymore, and go and do your own thing. being selfish fucking much. You know, it's like that's the kind of like sub-vocal, like kind of like sub-communication that's going on in society that holds people and societies down, right? And it's scary. You know, like if you're someone with little skill, with like little self-esteem or whatever it might be, little talent, then like and you have like a support network, and it's shit compared to like someone who is living a better life in a better situation, but you're too scared to lose that, right? It's understandable, but at the same time, like if you want to live in a better world, if you want to improve your life circumstance and the circumstance of other people around you, then you've got to look after yourself. That's the first step. You know, it sounds selfish having a negative connotation in this sense. And, I wish it wasn't that way, but it is. Like, like if you want to break free, like you have to kind of break free from like the other people who are like, even if they're subconsciously holding you down, like you have to kind of, you just kind of have to do it, right? It's like, what are you going to do? Like starve together? Like some people think it's actually better to starve together than to maybe break up and lose each other, but at the very least like learn to be self-sufficient, to be that second stage of independence in Stephen Covey's book, before moving into like the more healthy, more kind of like self-actualized, the more kind of advanced and sophisticated stage of interdependence, right? Where everyone has the capacity to look after themselves and thus has enough energy and resources and attention to then give healthily back to other people. That is true altruism. That is true selflessness. But in order to get there, you have to be selfish, right? It's like, I know, like all of this spawns from like a fear, like not everyone has it. Like I don't really have it. Who knows? Like, I did an entry about king in the subject. Like, you never know when the script is going to get flipped. Maybe one day I'll taste my own medicine. But I get it. Like the people who advocate this, like that selfishness is wrong. They're scared. They're scared of people leaving them. They're scared of being alone. They're scared of like everything getting fucked up. Like I understand, but are you really willing to stay in a shitty situation? And stay, like, I guess for some people it's fine. Like, it's obvious, like, when you look out in society that most people, like, they don't mind staying in a shitty, codependent situation if it means that, like, they don't have to be bothered, But I don't know. Like, in any case, like, in my opinion, there's too much self-sacrifice in the world. Sometimes you really do help someone out, but then, like, a lot of the times, like, so, for example, someone lends you some change because you don't have enough when you're paying for something. That's cool, Someone helps you out if you get into a pickle, like your car breaks down, and some innocent some like kind of person who's passing by helps you out. That's cool, but like. The kind of general charity, actual charity, like organizations and things like that, giving money to beggars, like who live in these cities and have opportunities to actually go out and work, or like going out of your way to help someone when like there isn't necessarily like a benefit for you, it's like, again, it's nuanced, right? But like, it's like, I think that most people like, and like they go home at the end of the day, and I know exactly how this feels because I do all the time, and you feel drained, and you feel like you haven't given yourself enough attention, and like you just feel terrible, and like you want to think, obviously, like the obvious thing would be like, oh yeah, like it's because I sacrificed like all fucking day. But like obviously it's so subconscious that you don't think about it because selfishness is wrong. You can't be selfish. You can't look after yourself. That's fucking bullshit, man. My message is look after yourself, man. Like, and if other people don't like that shit, fuck them. You know, like, you're not being like a dictator or something. You're not like out to like fucking destroy everyone else for your own gain. Like, you're not doing any of that shit. You're just looking after yourself. Because like, who's gonna look after, like, what's gonna help you, you know, become more selfless? It's to serve yourself first. What's gonna help you to serve other people better? It's to serve yourself first, right? You know, and like, look, check this out. This is my paradigm. This is my image for the world. We will live in a society where everyone facilitates each other's individual kind of fulfillment, so that we know that each other is independently satisfied and satiated, right? And then we come together and we share our gifts with the world. We share our surplus energy. We share our surplus creativity, you know? And if we do this correctly, we'll have tons of surplus stuff, right? And the world will be so fucking amazing, as opposed to the current paradigm where like everyone's like not trying to be selfish, right? And like they're sharing around these limited fucking scraps of resources, like these crumbs. And like when the time comes when like shit hits the fan and someone is selfish, you're like, this fucking girl was selfish. It's like, what do you fucking expect? Like, we were all fighting over crumbs, right? Yeah, like, we're sitting in a sinking ship. That's the thing. It's better to, like, you know, yeah, you get the picture. Like, I'm just kind of flogging a dead horse here, but like, yeah, the world is too like fucking hung up over this shit. Like, you've got to be selfish, and it's not coming from a place of like, oh, I'm gonna take everyone down and like, I'm gonna steal everyone's money or some shit. No, that's not the fucking case. Like, you're doing it because you're looking after the person who's most important to you in order to then serve the world. If you want to do that, or at the very least, like you serve yourself, you're a happy person. Do you feel like necessarily taking over someone's shit? If you're not in a state of starvation, why would you want to do that shit anyway? But anyway, you know, that's my message. You know, be more selfish. You know, that doesn't mean being like a hoarder or a hogger. It means doing what is necessary to take care of yourself so that you can then bring your A game to the world, right? That's all I'm saying. So cool. Yeah, so that was my message. I hope it was helpful and insightful as always. And I will see you in the next entry. Peace out, guys. Woo!